Hello again and welcome to another Gene Stealer Cult video. So before we get into today's video, I want to say a big thank you to Gavin Kiesbach, I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly, for sending in these cool pictures of his Chimera conversions. Now, a couple of videos ago, another supporter sent in some pictures of a Steel Legion which had these cool setback chimeras, and I asked how do you do it? Is it a conversion? Do you make it? Do you make it yourself? Can you buy it? I want to say thank you to all of you who commented and said that you can do it yourself, which is great. I also want to say thank you for Gavin for pointing out that there is actually a guy who sells these things sort of already converted, which is really cool. So I'll be checking out both and seeing which is most viable for me. I mean, I love a good kit bash, but I'm really busy at the moment, changing jobs and everything. So I might have to cheat and do the Gene Stealer Cult thing and just buy it. But either way, I probably will kit bash, to be honest. But thank you, Gavin, for sending me that information. But also thank you for sending in these pictures, because I really like what you've demonstrated here with your cameras, which is if you convert them in a certain way and don't glue everything together, you can actually, from just the same 5-6 Chimera hulls, have a huge amount of different vehicle options. You can have Basilisks, Wyverns, Chimeras, of course, other Hydras, for example. You can have loads of different options available just from a single Chimera hull, and you can just slide each one of these on and off, which is really, really cool. So thank you for sending that in, and thank you for sending some pictures demonstrating that. I also want to say, really digging the sort of converted Talon Desert Raiders you've got going there. Really, really good. And I like the colour scheme on the Gene Stealer Cult. Don't know if they're your models, but I still think they look pretty cool with that sort of purple classic Gene Stealer Cult colours. Now, 2 minutes in, waffling on, let's crack on with today's video. We're going to be looking at, now obviously Gene Stealer Cults have had a big tease recently. Ooh, lots of new interesting models going to be released, and the Codex is coming early 2019. We don't know exactly when, but one of the units that I want to talk about, and I will without a doubt revisit this when the Codex does drop. One of the units I will talk about, one of the units I am working on right now, and which drew me into the Gene Stealer Cult in the first place, is the Humble Neophyte Hybrid. Now, for those of you who have no interest in Gene Stealer Cult, or who are not sure what a Neophyte Hybrid is, or if you're an Inquisitor trying to learn more about your foe, then the Neophyte Hybrid is essentially a Guardsman. He has exactly the same stats as a Guardsman, except he has +1 leadership, which is important to notice. He has the same weapon skill, blitz skill, strength, toughness, armor save, attacks, wounds. He is a Guardsman for all intents and purposes. However, there are a few things which set them aside, and they have a few different options and limitations which Guardsmen don't have, and that's something I want to talk about today. I want to just do a quick, brief rundown. If any of you are familiar with my basic tactics series or basic weapon options, basic weapons series, I'm going to do something like that, but I'm just going to do an overview of what is currently available to the Neophytes. The reason I'm going to do it like that is because obviously the Codex is going to drop and things could change, but there are still players out there who want to buy models, and they're going to want to know what to equip them with, and there are a few standard rules with the Neophytes which will be more than likely still be relevant when the Codex drops. So, Neophyte Hybrids have 3 basic weapon options, three rifles, if you would. You have the autogun, you have the lasgun, and you have the shotgun. Now the autogun and the lasgun are identical in every way. Both strength 3, 24-inch range, rapid fire 1. The reason why they have the option to take either is because that is the kits that Games Workshop sells with them. Games Workshop sells cultists with autoguns, and Games Workshop sells cultists with Cadian cultists with lasguns. So they give you both options, which is cool. It's nice that they acknowledge that. It's only a word in the Codex, but it's nice that they have that option. And And then shotguns are a little different. They're only range 12. So that's half the range of a lasgun. They are assault 2, so they get 2 shots at strength 3. But if you are within half range, so if you're within 6 inches, so pretty bloody close, then you get strength 4, which is good. Now that gives shotguns a couple of, edges over lasgun autoguns, because it means that you can advance and still shoot your shotguns. Now with the 12-inch range, that's actually, if you're not ambushing them in, that's actually important. And it also means that you can get up to strength 4 quite easily, which is a really big deal for wounding things. It means you start wounding the majority of enemy vehicles on 5s instead of 6s. It means you start wounding the majority of enemy infantry on 4s instead of 5s. And some of the most competitive armies out there, like Eldar, have infantry which is toughness 3, which you start wounding enemies on 3s. And if lasguns could wound everything on 3s, then the Imperial Guard would be even more unstoppable. So the ability for Genestealer cults to get that sort of option with shotguns is pretty good. But the lasgun / autogun has advantages in the fact that the greater range means that you will be consistently doing more damage. It lends itself to a more constant flow of damage against your opponent. Essentially, when you're picking which weapon option to take, there are 2 things you need to take into account. The first one is rule of cool. Okay, autoguns are cool. Shotguns are really fucking cool, though probably not the competitive choice. Lasguns are just whatever. They're just normal. Lasguns are pretty standard. And that's coming from an Imperial Guard player, so your mileage may vary. The second thing to take into account is, what do you want the squad to do? Okay. Hybrids are a very flexible option. Like Guardsmen, they can be tailored into pretty much any role, but they should be tailored. Okay? Genestealer cults don't really have the ability to wage attritional warfare on the tabletop like the Guard. Your units need to know what they are doing. They need to have purpose. So if you want your hybrids to be backfield objective holders, which is very important in the new chapter proof missions with accumulative points, then giving them lasguns or autoguns and some heavy weapons is the way to go. If you want your hybrids to be part of some kind of alpha strike, so if you want them to be ambushing, getting up close, or being part of a rapid reaction force in Goliath trucks, in Chimeras, getting close to the enemy, jumping out and helping to clear objectives, shotguns are probably what you want them to do. And if you're not sure, then I would say it's better to go with the autogun lasgun. Okay? Because that still gives you flexibility. And remember, you might not be able to get up to strength 4 at close range, but with an autogun and lasgun, you're still going to get the same amount of shots within 12 inches as a shotgun. So that's better. I say the autogun lasgun is the more take-all-comers, but the shotgun has the ability to fulfill a much more specialised role. Now, you also, with your Neophyte hybrids, have access to a number of special weapons and heavy weapons and mining weapons. Okay? Now, the special weapons that are available to you, you have 3 options, and you can take 2 of these in a Neophyte hybrid squad. Now, to be clear, you can take your Neophyte hybrids in 10 to 20 man blobs. So you can have 20 men in one unit, which is good, better than the Imperial Guard. But it doesn't matter if you have a 10-man squad, 11, 12, or 20-man squad, you still can only take 2 special weapons. So there is an argument to be made to just spamming 10-man squads to get as many special weapons as you can out into the field. So bear that in mind. You can take 2 special weapons per Neophyte hybrid squad, and you have 3 choices. You have grenade launchers, flamers, and a cult unique weapon, the Weber. Now, for you Imperial Guard players out there, the grenade launcher and the flamer are pretty standard. The grenade launcher is now, thanks to chapter approved, 3 points. It has 2 firing modes, both of which are a 24-inch range. The first firing mode is Frag, which lets you do D6 strength 3 shots, which is designed for giving you a bit more anti-infantry capability. And the Crack mode gives you some light vehicle hunting possibilities and heavy infantry hunting possibilities. It's a single shot, which is a bit unreliable on your ballistic skill 4, but it's strength 6, AP -1, D3 damage. Now, AdMech players were already pretty jealous of our grenade launchers with their arc rifles, but because ours were cheaper. Now ours are even extra cheaper. Grenade launchers are a really good choice. Flamers are 6 points, so double the cost of grenade launcher. Bear that in mind. They are strength 4 though, which means for anti-infantry clearing straight away that's better. They're D6 shots. They don't have the 1 fire mode. Only an 8-inch range, so it's up close and personal. But they hit automatically, which the reason you're paying so much for it is because you're getting past the greatest limitation of your model, which is the fact you don't hit very often. You only hit 50% of the time. Flamers are very good on Neophyte hybrids. Now, flamers naturally lend themselves to the shotgun Neophytes. If you're going to be aiming to get within 6-inch range for your strength 4 shotgun blasts, bring along a couple of flamers. If you take 2 flamers, it's an extra 2d6 automatically hitting strength 4 shots. Well worth it. Okay. I would not really recommend them on your other hybrid squads. The reason for this is, and now a lot of people say, well, what about taking flamers to help deter Overwatch, to help you when the enemy gets close and personal? Let me explain. As a Genestealer cult player, flamers are different than they are in the Guard. In the Guard, like I just said, they can be used very well defensively for speed bumping and stuff like for screening squads. Very true. In the cult, we're not short of close combat options or close range damage options at all. And so the Flamer's never really going to be used in a defensive option. It's always going to be used on the attack. The Genestealer cult is a hyper-aggressive army. So there's no point in putting Flamers on your backfield, cheap, objective camping hybrid squads. They're never going to get used. Or they're very rarely going to get used. And if you need, you're more than likely going to have some kind of close combat unit on hand to help deter assaults. We are one of the principal close combat armies. So bear that in mind. Now the final option is the Weber. Now this weapon is a bit of a weird one. It's Genestealer cult unique. And it is range 16, assault D3, strength 4, AP nothing, damage 1. It costs 5 points as well. So it's more expensive than the grenade launcher yet. Has less range and less shots. The sort of gimmick with it is when making a shooting attack with a web weapon, you can use either the strength or toughness characteristic of the target to determine the wound, whichever is lowest. So you can, for example, it's just not very good. It's D3 bolter shots. Let's put that out there. Okay, it's D3 bolter shots at a short range. Now, there are very few units out there whose strength is lower than their toughness. Okay? And there are even fewer units out there where this matters. The one unit I can think of that this is consistently good against is bikers. Most armies out there, when you have someone on a bike, they get +1 wound, +1 toughness. For example, Space Marine bikers. Dark Elder bikers, Eldar bikers, they're all strength 3, toughness 4, strength 4, toughness 5. So it does mean against biker units that this weapon is quite good. but it's not good enough to worth paying additional points for the gimmick. Generally speaking, guys, I would avoid the Weber. Okay, I would avoid it like the plague. Now, it's not worth it. It's more expensive. It's too specialised. I don't know if Games Workshop thought when 8th edition dropped that bikers were going to be this hot shit, but anyway. Now, you can also take either one heavy weapon, so 2 Neophytes form a heavy weapon team, but the interesting here is that this team does not have autoguns, unlike the Imperial Guard heavy weapon teams, which get to keep their one of their rifles. The Neophyte hybrids don't, which is a shame. But they do get to pick one heavy weapon from the heavy weapons list, or you can take 2 weapons from the heavy mining weapons list. So basically, you can take 2 mining weapons or 1 heavy weapon. Now, your mining weapons include the heavy stubber, the mining laser, and the seismic cannon, all of which are pretty unique to, apart from the heavy stubber, to the Gene Sealer Cult. Now, the heavy stubber was, before chapter approved, kind of shit and overpriced. It used to cost 8 points. Now it costs 2 points. Okay, and for your 2 points, you get 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 4. Basically, you get for 2 points, you get heavy 3, 36-inch range bolter shots. That's really good. That's really, really good. That should be your go if you're taking a backfield camping objective Neophyte hybrid squad. That should be your go-to weapon. If you're not sure what you're going up against, but you could do with a little bit of extra firepower, that should be your go-to weapon. It's so cheap. If before chapter approved, as a Gene Stealer Cult player, you were running your Neophyte hybrid squads with a couple of grenade launchers, but you didn't want to spring for the heavy weapons or mining lasers, now take this into account. If you take a grenade launcher and a heavy stubber, that costs 5 points, which is the same points as if you just took a grenade launcher pre-chapter approved. Heavy stubbers are cheap, they are good, they are tactically flexible, they put out enough shots to compensate for you moving with them and hitting on a -1. However, they are, at the end of the day, D3. They are 3 bolter shots. So if you're looking for something for a bit more punch, for 14 points, you can take the mining laser. Now the mining laser is basically a budget las cannon. It's got 24-inch range, which is half the range of a proper las cannon. But it's strength 9, AP minus. It's heavy 1, strength 9, AP minus 3, and it does D3 damage. So it's kind of like, it's a short range las cannon. Well, the D3 damage is kind of interesting because it means on average you're going to do 2. But remember, you can take 2 of these in one squad, which means on average you're going to do 4 damage with 2 mining lasers if you hit and if you wound. Versus the las cannon, which has an average of doing 3.5. Sometimes that's going to be 3 damage, sometimes that's going to be 4 damage. That's your average. Thing is that one las cannon costs 20 points and have a greater range. But 2 mining lasers cost 28 points. So you're paying 8 points more for that slightly greater statistical likelihood of getting slightly more damage. So weigh that up, if you will. I tend to find, when I first took Neophytes, thought mine lasers were the shit, spammed them, quickly realised they weren't worth it. Okay, I quickly realised they can be good. I think what would make them worth their 15 points if they became like Orc rockets and they did a flat 3 damage. That would be nice. That would be nice. Or something like they do 2 damage, but if you get a 6 to wound, then they do a mortal wound. You know, something like that. Okay, that would be cool. But as it is, they're slightly too expensive. The final option is the seismic cannon, which is many Gene Stealer cults' favourite weapon option. Gene Stealer cult players' favourite option. It's 10 points, so it's a bit of a middle ground between, you know, slightly cheaper than that mining laser, and it's like the grenade launcher. It's kind of multi-purpose. You can fire it in two ways. You can fire it long wave or short wave. Long wave, it's got a 24-inch range. It's heavy 4, but it's only strength 3, damage 1. So it's 4 lasgun shots. It doesn't seem worth paying 10 points for. But hang on. The shortwave version is only a 12-inch range, but it's heavy 2, so you only get 2 shots. But it is strength 6, AP -1, flat 2 damage. So you can see, if you got up close and personal with this, that you could be, with a couple of grenade launchers firing crack, and then this thing, you're putting, 2 of these things, you're putting out 4 strength 6, AP -1, on average damage 2 shots for one squad. That's not too bad. But that's not the reason. I think most people prefer to fire it in the long wave pattern. And the reason for this is because it has a special rule. All wound rolls for 6+ are AP -4. So really, you don't care about its strength. You want to be fishing for that 6 to wound. So you shoot this thing at tanks, you don't care. You get a 6 to wound, you're going to cut through that tank's armor, no problem. So bear that in mind. Out of the 3, I would say the take all comers option is it's probably the seismic cannon. If you want to tailor your squad, you know, because that way you're good at long range, you're good at short range, you can take on any target with the AP -4 on 6s. You've got high volume of shots. It's still not expensive, but I would say the cheap option, which is you know, also I would consider to be a take all comers option, is the heavy stubber. Really boosts your anti-infantry capability with the unit taking 2 of them. And the specialist anti-tank version, if you want your neophytes to soften up a knight before your aberrants go wheeling in there, you take a couple of mining lasers. Now, the other options you have available to you are your heavy weapons, and these are pretty much the same as the Imperial Guard. You get the autocannon, heavy bolter, las cannon, mortar, and missile launcher. Okay, I'm only going to cover these very quickly. The autocannon is 10 points. It's strength 7, AP -1, 2 damage, range 48 inches. It's a long range take all comers weapon. It's good. It's relatively high strength enough to wound nearly all infantry. It's going to be shot at on 2s and 3s. It's got decent enough AP, so you can shoot it at things with good and vulnerable saves, because it doesn't waste a load of AP. It's got a good damage output, which means you can pull off chunks of wounds from the enemy vehicles, or squish medium and heavy infantry. It's a solid all-round weapon. Heavy bolter has got a greater rate of firepower. It's 8 points, so slightly cheaper than the autocannon. It's only got a 36-inch range, which is 12 points less than the autocannon, but it does have 3 shots. It is strength 5, it's AP -1, damage 1, so it's much more focused on killing infantry, but it is slightly cheaper, and it's still, with that strength 5, means it can wound most infantry on 3s and most vehicles on 5s. The las cannon is the quintessential anti-tank weapon, 48-inch range, strength 9, AP -3, damage D6. You want to hurt tanks? Look no further. Missile launcher is 15 points, so it's 5 points cheaper than the las cannon. It can do anti-tank, it can do anti-infantry. In its frag mode, it fires D6 bolter shots. In its crack mode, it fires 1 shot, strength 8, AP -2, D6 damage, basically a budget las cannon. Finally, the mortar is 5 points. It fires D6 bolter shots, but its main gimmick is it does not need line of sight to shoot at the enemy. which means if you want to, you can take a Neophyte hybrid squad with a single mortar, hide them out line of sight on an objective, and they can still contribute to the game. So there you go. The final thing to mention is that your sergeant in the squad, the Neophyte leader, has access to several weapons. He can take, unlike Imperial Guard sergeants, he can take an auto gun / las gun. He can take a rifle, which is great. Or he can take a shotgun. Basically, this guy doesn't have to fuck around with taking some bullshit mandatory pistol close combat weapon option if he doesn't want to. He can grab a rifle and do a real man's work. Or you can kit him out for close combat. Now, if he has an auto gun / shotgun / las gun, he doesn't get to take a chainsword or any other kind of close combat weapon. If you wanted to go close combat, he has to take pistol and close combat weapon. Okay. Now, the pistols he has access to are kind of interesting. He has access to, let's find it here on my list. He has access to the, I should know this off the top of my head, bolt pistol, las pistol, and web pistol. Okay. Or las pistol / auto pistol. It's the same thing. Las pistol. We all know what that does. I'm not even going to cover it. Bolt pistol. Strength, range 12, strength 4. Basically, you pay 1 point to have 1 point extra strength. Web pistol. Again, it's not really worth it. It's kind of a gimmick. It's got a 12-inch range, so fair enough. It has D3 shots, strength 3. So bear that in mind. But it's actually weirdly expensive, if I remember. It's 3 points. So basically, guys, you get the las pistol / auto pistol for free. For 1 point, you get 1 shot at strength 4. So you're paying for the extra point. Or you can pay 3 points to have D3 las pistol shots and potentially up your rate of fire to 3 shots from one guy. Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. You also get access to some melee weapons. You get access to a chainsword, cultist knife, power maul, and power pick. Now, the chainsword and cultist knife do exactly the same thing. They give you +1 extra attack. That's it. Your base strength and skill. The power maul is interesting. Gives you +2 strength, AP -1. That's generally the option you want to go for. If you're going to kit your leader out for close combat, give him the power maul. It's 4 points, and it means that when he gets into combat, he's going to be strength 5, AP -1. That actually means that strength 5, he's going to be wounding most enemies he comes across on 3s. Most enemy infantry is toughness 4. That's really good. The power pick is a very interesting weapon. It's Gene Stealer Occult unique. The thing is I don't think it's worth it on a Neophyte leader. It's cool. Like, the thing is, it's very cool. It's the weapon that you see on the front cover. It's the weapon you see in all the artwork, all the pictures and the codex and everything. They've always got these power picks, and they are super fucking cool. But they're only strength user, and that's their big downfall. They are AP -2, which is actually like a power axe, and they do D3 damage. So think about it, it's like a power axe that does D3 damage, but you don't get the +1 strength. The problem is that these things are a whopping 10 points. And on a unit like a Neophyte hybrid dude, it's just not worth it. Bearing in mind that your Aberrants get this too, and the Aberrants get this too, and they're strength 5, and they get like 4 attacks with it or something stupid. It doesn't really make sense to be giving it to the same weapon to a weaker guy. They are, however, rule of cool. So bear that in mind. I currently don't have a sergeant with a power pick, but I am going to model one. Like I said, it's rule of cool, and it's kind of like, as a Gene Stealer Occult player, you do have to have, pickaxes and sledgehammers and shit sprinkled through your army, because that is the theme of your army. So that's it, really, guys. Oh, the last thing to say is you can pay 20 points to give this squad a cult icon. They used to be free, which is incredible, but now you have to pay 20 points. I don't think it's worth it on a Neophyte hybrid squad. It lets you reroll ones in combat, and that's it. Now, this video is going on for a while, but I am covering like a lot in one go. Considering I'm going to be doing a basic tactics series on each weapon option when the codex comes out, so bear that in mind. But when you're taking your hybrids, they have to fulfill a specific battlefield role, as we've covered. There are essentially 3 roles that they can cover, and each one is perfectly valid and in fact encouraged to be used. The first one is, as I've said several times, the backfield objective holder. These are units which you're going to deploy, more than likely in cover, near objectives which are in or near your deployment zone. Things that these guys can reach in 1, maybe 2 movement phases. They need to rush over there and get it. Okay? You're going to deploy them in cover. You're going to want to give them long-range weapons like autoguns or las guns. They're going to want a couple of grenade launchers. Absolutely a couple of grenade launchers. And probably a couple of heavy stubbers. That's the longest range heavy weapon you can sort of manual weapon you can get. They'll be cheap. And they don't need to be babysat in any way. You just put them in the cover. A couple of heavy stubbers. A couple of grenade launchers. Leave them to it. Maybe, give them a heavy weapon of your choice. If you really want to take a las cannon or whatever, fine. But my go-to objective holding unit would be 10 guys, 2 grenade launchers, 2 heavy stubbers, 60 points, stick them in cover, 4+ save, they're not going to go anywhere, and they're going to contribute throughout the game. Fantastic. My second option that I would load out that I would consider is the ambushing screen clearer. Basically, you start racking those pump action shotguns. Okay, you want to take a big 20-man squad, full 20 mana. Okay, you want to give every single guy in there a shotgun. You're probably going to want to take a cult icon. You're probably going to want to take a sergeant with a decent power weapon. Let's say bolt pistol, power maul. And you're probably going to want to take 2 flamers. Okay, and you're going to want to ambush those guys in. Their aim is, if you're facing an enemy who has good screening, let's say like orcs or Imperial Guard, or every army has access to screens. Space Marine Scouts, for example. And what they're doing is they're pushing your ambushes, like your Gene Stealers, your Acolytes, your Aberrants. They're pushing those guys way back from their intended targets. Your first ambush unit can come in accurately, bunch of near with a Primus, Meticulous Uprising, and they can come in, they can get nice and close to the enemy, and they can fire 40 strength 4 shots. Don't forget your flames will be going off there for 2d6 automatic hits. You've got your sergeant with a bolt pistol. Roughly, we're talking 40 strength 4 hits that are going to do some serious damage. And if you get on the current cult ambush table, bear in mind this may change with the codex. If you get a 5, then you can deploy 9 inches away, and then you shoot in your movement phase, and then in your shooting phase you can shoot again. So you're looking at 80 shots that way. So real good screen clearing potential. The final way is as a bodyguard delivery system for your Patriarch. Now, Patriarchs have want to be getting up close to the enemy. They want to be shredding them with those monstrous claws, but they don't really have a reliable way of getting there. You can't put them in vehicles. They can't ambush in reliably, so what do? You take some Neophytes to bubble wrap them. Patriarchs are characters. They can't be, with less than 10 wounds, they can't be targeted unless the enemy has like snipers, okay? And what you do is you want to take a bunch of cultists, probably with auto guns. I'd say an effective cultist blob. We're looking at 40 cultists. You want to take an Acolyte Icon one there to give them all 6 up, feel no pain, and you want to take a Patriarch in there to make them all fearless, and they can just move. No upgrades, or very few upgrades. Maybe grenade launchers at most, but no, realistically, no upgrades. You're taking them there as a way to swarm the field. You're moving and advancing with them every turn. You're keeping them around your Patriarch. He's moving and advancing within the blob. They're tough with the 6-up feel no pain, with the numbers. And then when you get by about turn 3, you'll be close to the enemy. The ranks can burst open from the survivors. The Patriarch or 2 can come bursting out of those neophytes. You can get into the enemy and he'll shred them. Absolutely shred them. And the best bit is, thanks to the rule unquestioning loyalty, if your Patriarch starts getting in a little bit of trouble, let's say he's bounced, let's say he goes in against someone with a 4+ invuln, that your opponent makes an inordinate amount of invulnerable saves, and your Patriarch's left there feeling a little sheepish. Unquestioning loyalty, as long as you have a squad of neophytes within 3 inches of your any Gene Cult character, including Patriarchs, then whenever they are about to lose a wound on a 4+, a neophyte can jump in front of it. So it's almost like Gene Cult have Saviour protocols, but it goes off on a 4+. But don't forget, you still get your 6-up feel no pain, I believe, against that, or is it just slain? No, it's just slain. So I don't believe you may or may not get 6-up feel no pain against that from your acolyte icon ward. But either way, it means that you can tank wounds on your neophytes. 4+, they're going to take a wound. That's going to take that wound for you. So there you go, guys. It's a pretty generalist but high level, but sort of in depth look at neophytes. Covers all the options pre-codex. I think the last thing to say would be, what would I expect from, if I was to buy neophytes now, which I have done. I bought 3 more boxes of the Cadian neophytes. I'm doing a video on those models later in the week, or maybe early next week. What would I, if I was to buy neophytes, what would I equip them with? What would I go for? Well, it's difficult to say. Okay, right now, I would be a little hesitant to build them with any special or heavy weapons. Right now, what I would do is I would buy neophytes, but I would go for the autogun lasgun variety. Okay, if you're like, I want to buy some neophytes, I like the models, I want to build and paint them, what should I go for? My recommendation would be, get yourself some autogun or lasgun neophytes. Okay, but build them, but make sure you save all your bits. Okay, save all your bits, and that way when the codex drops, you could just buy yourself like another box of the neophytes, and then use all your heavy stubbers, your manning lasers, your grenade launchers, your flamers, and just give them, build a whole squad of just those guys, the whole whole box of those guys basically with all your special weapons, and then you can just pick the best special weapon, build all the special weapons. Then, if you have to absolutely twist my arm, and ask me what would I build them with right now? Damn that the codex is coming out. What is going to be a staple neophyte hybrid squad? I would say that an addition-proof neophyte hybrid squad, you're going to have a couple of grenade launchers. And probably I'd go for the heavy stubbers as well. That would be the ones. That would be my addition-proof recommendation. The heavy stubbers, they're included. The reason I say that is, grenade launchers are available in both the Cadian kit and the neophyte miners. So it's pretty. They're going to keep those models. The grenade launcher is going to be around, and the heavy stubbers are pretty prevalent throughout the Gene Cult army. They're on all the vehicles. They're available in one of the kits. Like I said, I don't think those are going anywhere, and they are more than likely always going to be the cheapest option. And one thing that you can say for your Neophytes is, yeah, sometimes the stubbers are going to be 8 points, sometimes the stubbers are going to be 2 points, but they're always going to be the cheapest option, and Neophytes should always be kept as relatively cheap, expendable infantry. So you can't really go too wrong with going with the stubbers. They're always going to be the cheapest option. And they're always going to be, stubbers, their profile hasn't changed since I started playing in 3rd edition. They haven't changed since then. They're not going to change now. They're going to be reliable one way or another. Maybe they won't always be the best option, but they'll always be an option. So guys, if you stuck with me this far, thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Any comments, any feedback, please put them down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.